as Mark is getting rocked in that moment, his eyes are open. He's with it.
Yeah.
And he's not knocked out. He's getting his bell rung. He's getting kneed in the guts and in the rib cage. And then also, but he's not quitting and he's not tapping. And he's just there. When I knew that was going to be part of our film, and Benny obviously had written the script, I talked to Mark, and when we just gotten to know each other so we're all so close now and great friends. But I said to Mark, just you and I here.
Damn.
Why couldn't you move? Why, and I said, there's 30, 40,000 people there in Japan. And he goes, that's exactly it, DJ. There's 30, 40,000 people there in Japan. They all came to see me. I'm not going to quit.
Yeah.
I just could not move my arm. So the best thing for me to do was just to take it.
Yeah.
And I was going to take it until I couldn't take it anymore, or take it until the ref stops it.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the ref stops. I have chills now, as he was telling me that.
All right, thank you guys all for joining us for this MMA roundtable for the Smashing Machine, opening only in theaters on October 3rd. We have with us Dwayne Johnson, Mark Kerr, and director Benny Safdie. We're going to go around the horn. Everyone's going to get a question, but I wanted to start first question for Benny. For the documentary, what stood out for you from the documentary, and then what were you trying to do tonally with your film?
So what I really loved I loved the documentary, but then there was something about Mark that just was so vulnerable and so open, and I just fell in love with him as a person trying to explain himself in such an extreme environment. And I really wanted to know just more about him. And I wanted to know what he was going through, what he felt like. And so with the movie, like Dwayne then talks to me about seeing this documentary, and I just realized, maybe we want to explore the same thing. I said to Mark, you lived your life so we could all feel it, and that's really what I wanted to do with the movie. Was really, I thought, first of all, it's such an incredible period of time, this early part of MMA where people were literally just trying to figure it out. What is this thing that we're doing? And I just selfishly wanted to be there. What if I could be there to see this and view it too? And so then it became let's do that. Let's go back and really try and understand what went on underneath, and really use all the levers that I have as a narrative filmmaker to kind of really put you inside of Mark's head and just try and understand what you were going through, because I found that for myself was very valuable. Just how I was using just somebody who could appear so invincible, could also be so vulnerable. I thought that was so beautiful. And I thought that that's something that the world should be exposed to try and understand that if this guy has all these problems and is really trying, and then also just talking to him now, just understanding that he's come to such a place of introspection and understanding, and the journey to becoming a better person, all these things are just beautiful to me. So, and I know that may go counter with MMA, you'd think, but all these guys really are friends, and they love each other and they support each other. And that's a whole other side that I also wanted to kind of shine a light on,
Great. Thank you, Benny.
What was the most, you're sitting right next to two imposing, intimidating guys. What was the most challenging part about managing their personalities and making this work?
That never entered the equation, because we just instantly, that was we were building a rapport with one another where it was just this is what we're doing. We all know what we're trying to achieve. I think the first time I had a conversation with Mark, I tried to be really formal, and then I just said, you know what?
Didn't work.
I'm going to tell you everything about my life.
Yeah.
Because it's only fair, that he knows everything about me, since I'm going to go out and try and do this. And Dwayne and I and Emily, we just talked about everything, because I just wanted us to be friends. I wanted us to be close, because I knew we were going to be going to places that may have been a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah. And I thought we need to do that from a place of trust, So that was kind of where it was just building that foundation and then moving from there, you know?
Great.
These guys are the best. That's the thing is, it's like, I think that like there's such a softness and such a sweetness, you know, that like it almost is in opposition to what they look like. But just because somebody is strong or looks invincible doesn't mean that they're not feeling the same feelings that everybody else is, you know? It's just, everybody's a person, you know?
And also, too, I think, guys, when you step on to our set of Smashing Machine and what Benny was able to, as our leader and maestro and visionary, the set that he was able to create was one of great reverence to MMA, and love and respect. So by the time you get on set, now, of course, in the world of MMA and UFC and these other promotions around the world, just by nature of MMA, there are a lot of personalities and crazy personalities. You got to be a little crazy to do what this guy did and to do what these men and women do. You got to be a little crazy. But also, by the set that we created there was a respectful exposure that Benny wanted to create to MMA. Not only the fighters and the veneer, the armor that they put on, but also what happens when they take the armor off.
Yeah.
And what happens when they feel that pressure. And not only the fighters, but then as obviously Mark knows and fighters out there know, is that, and that we have learned, is the fighters aren't the only ones who sacrifice it all. It's the families, the wives, the girlfriends, the kids. It's everybody. So that's the lens that Benny also wanted to show and expose. So the reason why I say that is because when you mentioned how was it to try and manage these personalities, it was a set of great respect.
Yeah.
You know, so when you walk on it, it's like everyone knew, including Boz and Ryan Bader and, you know, all these guys. Usyk too as well. Like they knew, hey, we're here out of respect to show love. So that no one, you know, Usyk's a crazy son of a bitch. He's the greatest.
Yeah. And it's like, but again, it was like when you and Usyk saw each other.
Oh my God.
It's like, again, it was like there's just this instant understanding.
So we didn't even exchange words. I tapped him on the shoulder and he just stood up and he just gave me a big hug. And that's just the amount of respect that he has for what's going on and for me. And, you know, it's just, it's a common thread that a lot of people don't see in mixed martial arts or combat sports, is that there's that reverence for each other. Because, I mean, you have to, whether you like the guy or not, you got to respect him.
Yeah.
Because it's just inherently incredibly difficult, you know, thing that we're doing. And you can not like him, but I have respect for every single person that steps into the ring, the octagon, the cage, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So there is just a really incredible undertone of this reverence and respect. And like, you know, what we're doing is that we're giving everybody a peek behind the curtain of like, hey, this is what it was like, you know, when this started out. And, you know, these are the complexities that were going on. And so it's you know, for me, it's been this incredible journey.
Terrific. We'll take our next question from Shaq from CBS Sports.
Hey guys, question for Dwayne. I know how important authenticity was to this entire process, and that goes from casting real fighters and ring announcers to Dwayne doing a lot of the actual choreography himself. And you definitely see it through how the movie is filmed, particularly how the cameramen filming the fights are filming it from the crowd perspective. Now, without giving too much away, there is one scene where the camera does get a little bit closer to the ring, a little bit more personal. Dwayne, I need to know everything about the dynamics at play here. What's going through your mind when you realize you need to take a real punch in that scene? How are you communicating this to your scene partner, trying to convince them to actually lay one in? And most importantly, how did it feel to take that punch?
Okay. Well, I'll start with the last question. It felt like when you get rocked by a real fighter multiple times, and there's a moment in the trailer where I'm on my knees in the ring and I look up and I look dazed. That's real. I got my bell rung. And Benny was like, hold on, just stay right there. And I was seeing 3 heads of Benny Safdie and 15 heads of Mark Kerr at that time. But So
Oh my God.
to bring it back to authenticity, as you said, and Mark is the one who experienced this loss where he couldn't move in the ring and he was getting rocked. And what's so moving about that, when you see it in the documentary, and then you obviously watch it and you pull it up, his fights on YouTube, is that as Mark is getting rocked in that moment, his eyes are open, he's with it.
Yeah.
And he's not knocked out. He's getting his bell rung. He's getting kneed in the guts and in the rib cage, and then also, but he's not quitting and he's not tapping, and he's just there. I was so, when I knew that was going to be part of our film, and Benny obviously had written the script, I talked to Mark, and when we just gotten to know each other so we're all so close now and great friends. But I said to Mark, just you and I here.
Damn.
Why couldn't you move? Why, and I said, there's 30, 40,000 people there in Japan. And he goes, that's exactly it, DJ. There's 30, 40,000 people there in Japan. They all came to see me. I'm not going to quit.
Yeah.
I just could not move my arms. So the best thing for me to do was just to take it.
Yeah.
And I was going to take it until I couldn't take it anymore, or take it until the ref stops it.
Yeah.
Now, obviously the ref stops. I have chills now as he was telling me that. So the man who lived his life so we could all feel it, I knew going into that scene, into that fight, because Benny had asked me at the beginning of the movie, it wasn't a question, it was more, here's this, I would love to do this. And Benny said, I would love to never cut away from you in these fights. We have a great stunt double, we have two. I'd love to just use you. And I know what that meant. And so at the end in that scene, we had to tell our scene partner is a fighter.
Yeah.
And I said to him, hey brother, you're pulling the punches. I said, you got to lay it in and you got to hit me. He goes, what do you mean? I said, Benny's not cutting away. This is the end of the movie. This really happened to Mark.
Yeah.
You have to lay it in.
Yeah. Wow.
And I said, look, just don't hit me here. You break my jaw. Don't hit me in my temple. You'll kill me. I said, but if you can hit me here in my cheekbone.
Yeah, okay.
And he goes, no, I'm not going to do that. And I said, I need you to hit me. And he goes, I respect you. I'm not going to do that. I asked Benny to come over, and Benny asked him. Benny said, you have to hit him because I'm not cutting away. And I grabbed him. I said, brother, please, it's you and I here. It's okay.
And then I had just I found out that earlier that Boz was listening to this whole thing. Yeah. And Boz was just like, just hit him.
Just hit him.
He's the Rock.
Yeah, he's the Rock. Hit him.
Good.
It's like, whoa.
He hit me so hard. He hit me so hard. And then that's what you see in the movie. He is not only is he hitting me, but I realized watching back, he's coming down on you. And that is a pump.
Yeah. Oh my
Dude. Anyway.
And it's like, but that's like that. And then after like hearing that, it's like, okay, then taking Stephen Quadros, who's like the fight professor, like coming in and talking and like writing lines for him. Basically that like, yes, we've seen a lot of tap outs in this tournament, but Mark, he fell on his sword. And that takes a real champion, that there's different levels to what a win means, I think that's something to take away from it. Yeah. Because like, on a very small level, like I've gotten punched doing sparring and all that, and it's a very weird thing when you're getting hit and you're telling your body to do something and it's not responding. You just don't know how to explain it. And then everybody's like, why weren't you blocking? It's like, I was trying
to. Like I used to say, like you would get coach going, why aren't you listening? I go, I hear you. I can't do what you're asking me to do. Like, yeah, punch harder. I'm like, okay. It's like, that's a good answer.
Yeah, that's a great.
Like it's just so. I mean, it's a complex thing, but it's one of those.
And you think how complex that is to be on all fours, and it's what you love to do, and in front of a live crowd, and you cannot, for whatever reason, fight back, and you're getting rocked, man. Yeah. And I took 3 or 4. He took probably 30.
Oh. It was brutal.
It was brutal. Yeah. That shit.
Thank you guys for your commitment.
Yeah. We'll take our next question from Anthony from ESPN.com.
Hey guys, appreciate the time. I know you were talking about it a little bit, just for Dwayne, from like a method acting standpoint. Like, how did you get your mind and specifically your body prepared to play Mark? And Mark, what role did you play in that process?
Benny and I met very early about this, and he said, I'm a little, I don't know how to say this to you, and I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but you're going to have to get bigger. And Benny said, I don't have the word. It's puffier. And I said, give me 24 hours. I think I know what you're talking about. So, you watch Mark on film, and what I realized, and I came back to Benny the next day, and I said, I will, of course, do this. I need some time. It looks like I'm going to have to put on about 25 to 30 pounds. And I said, but the difference is what I just realized in the commitment to this and to become Mark is Mark, as you guys know, he at his prime, and still does, he's a big boy, but has this rare one-of-one body and aesthetics of a 6'2", 260 beast of a man, fast twitch fibers, that different quality of muscle of a wrestler with a nonstop motor that's always going in, shooting, lifting up. And so just that work, the deltoid, and then the traps, the neck, his quads, I've never worked harder. And we like hard work. It's what, we all like to do. But I'd never worked harder for a role. And to put on that kind of muscle is just different.
It is.
That fast twitch fiber is different. So that's why I went into an MMA camp, trained with real coaches, real MMA fighters, just to keep my movement, by the way. And luckily, fortunately, I think when you see it in the film, that Mark walks a certain way. There's a confidence about that he talks a certain way, yet he's very tender and very sweet. He's very empathetic too as well. But he is an animal. And I learned that putting on that weight, but then there's that weight, there's the voice, there's the tenderness, but there's also what I tried to do is just try to get to know Mark as best I could, everything that's happening up here. And what I realized is that the thing, Benny and I went into this with such a profound love and respect for Mark and Dawn and MMA, but you realize, man, it's not the wins. I said this when Mark was inducted into the Hall of Fame at UFC. I said, it's not the wins. We realize it's not about the wins or winning. It's about the pressure to win. And the pressure that is on this guy and on these men and women who perform. That's when things became really profound for us.
Yeah.
How did I do, by the way? He wants to know how I did.
So this is just a little quick sum up. So my son, who went to New York and he saw the film, it's just probably a couple months ago. He calls me immediately afterward, and it's almost like he's whispering, like, "Dad, he walks like you. He looks like you. He talks like you." It was this whole narrative of like the confirmation of like his transformation into somebody other than Dwayne Johnson. It was this, validation of like a third party going, "Oh my gosh, he's like, Dad." And you know what he said too? He actually said to me, "Dad, he's got your heart."
Oh my God. Wow, man.
Yeah.
Wow. It's beautiful.
Yeah. That was like one of those where I'm like, hang on a second. Oh, man. Because it's just one where it's just like, if anybody on the planet can validate that, it would be my son.
Wow, man.
Thank you. We'll take our next question from Alexander from MMAfighting.com.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us. I wanted to ask, we've all talked a lot about the MMA fights, which is just, the scenes are amazing. Like, there's no question about that. But I thought the most vicious, like gut-wrenching scenes in the movie were the scenes where Dwayne is fighting with Emily. I think those are the ones I found like the toughest to watch. Now, Dwayne, you come from an extensive pro wrestling background, and I think one big misunderstanding is that pro wrestling is completely collaborative. I know there's a competitive element in there as well, even though of course you're not really trying to kill each other, right? Were you able to draw on that at all in these scenes with Emily, where she is probably a more experienced like dramatic actress, and I thought like she's coming at this guy in some of these scenes. So, did you have to draw on any of that past experience? Like, man, I gotta step up. I gotta defend myself, or I'm gonna figuratively be devoured alive by this incredible like Academy Award nominated actor. So yeah, was there any connection there? Yeah.
Emily is one of the greatest actors of our time and of all time, period. She acts 10 feet tall when she wants to and rooted from the ground up in her acting. Those scenes hurt my heart, and they hurt Benny's heart and Emily's, and they hurt Mark's heart, and they're hard to watch. And as Benny has said, I've heard him say so beautifully, when you love somebody so much and so hard as Mark and Dawn did, as couples out there do, sometimes it's the ones you love most that you can have the most raw, meanest of fights with. And those scenes, what I drew on was, I don't have that well, other than hearing my mom and dad fight like that when I was a kid. And I'm glad I didn't see it, but I heard it, because I think maybe that's better for me as a kid. But I remember what that was like. My dad was a pro wrestler, and my mom essentially was that woman who sacrificed her life so she could support her husband, like a lot of women do, and like a lot of men do for their wives too as well. So those scenes with Emily were just so raw, and Benny wanted to make sure that it's real. And let's shoot these scenes, especially those where we get that intense and raw. If we can do it, Benny said, I'd love to shoot it as if it's only happened one time, just like in real life. And that's what we did. And I know, and I'm going to share this, is when we were at the Venice Film Festival, this was the first time that I'd sat next to Mark watching the film before. He's seen it a couple of times on his own. And he and I were together like this. And, he's a big boy. And his leg, and I feel his body this whole time watching this. And every time those fights would happen with Mark and Dawn, his body would begin to shake. Yeah. And then I looked over at one point towards the end, the big fight scene, the big one. And Benny is holding his hand, and he held his hand and just kept it there for
the whole rest of the movie. Yeah, we just gripped,
because I said this. I said, it's almost like therapy, and it sounds weird to even say it like that, but just how real it was and how raw it was. For the first time, I could actually see more parts of what I was responsible for. And it was this like existential looking at it from this perspective that I never saw it before. And it was just this, it hit me at Venice to the point where it's just like I'm weeping. Yeah. Like just weeping. And DJ feels it and Benny feels it. And I'm just, they're like, hey, because they know how intense that is for me to relive those moments and stuff. And it was just speaks to the, where he went, where Emily went. It was just incredible to just watch. It just was unbelievable.
And it's interesting that you made the connection between the fights in the ring and the fights out, because to do that specific fight, I was like, you know what, I'm going to approach this the same way. Sections. Because we would do the fights in sections, because we really wanted to be very true to what it feels like to be, because there's a speed at which those fights happen in the ring. You're like, because I remember saying, I want to know what it's like to be taken down. And then all of a sudden you're just like, I'm going down. Yeah. There's no way you can control it. It happens so fast. And so it was like, okay, let's put these into kind of bite-size physicality moments, and move through the fights that way. And specifically with this one, it's like an 8.5 minute fight between them, where it's in different phases. This is round 1, this is round 2, and that's how those go down. Yeah. And it really was like, okay, let's focus on this, let's get this down, and then they build in ways, and then you say things that you feel really bad about, and then you have to live with that, and you think, how am I going to overcome that? It's just, there's a whole wave of things that go through, and it's just intense.
Thank you, guys. We'll take our next question from Simon from MMAJunkie.com, and then we have one more question after that.
Yeah, hey guys, thank you. I appreciate your time. I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of what Alex asked, because The film obviously is full of a lot of raw and intense scenes, but I want to specifically ask about the pre-party scene. For Dwayne, like you've never filmed a scene that was that intense in your career, from what I can recall. What was your like sort of gut reaction when you read that part of the script? And can you describe just how tough it might have been to film that particular scene?
Yeah, it's hard to read, and you get emotional even when you read it because you have a sense of where you're going to have to go. And I've already gotten to know Benny. Obviously, I knew Benny very well by that point. Emily and I are great friends. And so you get a sense of where you're going to have to go. I'll share this with you guys and give you context of Benny's a radical empathy to us as actors and the material he wrote, and out of respect to Mark and Dawn. So the house that these films, the scenes were shot in, that was a house that was built from scratch on a soundstage, no movable walls, running water, the carpet, everything exactly how Mark's house was, Mark and Dawn.
Yeah.
And he did that, Benny did that so he could hide the cameras and hide lighting. So when we walked in and it's time to kick off and we know what's getting ready to happen, it's just living now.
Yeah.
There's no cameras, there's no handheld, there's no guy, there's none of that. And even though, of course, we would have done the scene if that was there, because that's what we do. But the fact that there was nothing there, at least not from what we could see, and we could just live in this moment in the scene, and that pre-party scene, where it begins to kick off, and Benny also, there's like signature Benny Safdie things that you'll start to find here, where she comes in, she questions, she says this, he goes, hey, it's not like this, it's like this. She doesn't quite believe him. She leaves. Camera, you see her leave. Still on Mark too as well. Mark is thinking, shit, I hope I'm going to get through this. I don't know what's going to be. She comes back in, and then it just continues to build. And then on top of that, you're hearing that Bruce Springsteen Jungle Land. That's an 8-minute song. Yeah. And that song continues the entire fight, man. I'll just say this, as Benny has been saying, Mark Kerr and Dawn, they lived their life so we could feel it. And for us to put that scene on its feet and go to the places we went to, we were wrecked afterwards. We were emotionally wrecked. One time we did that. We did it in sections, but you could only do it once for the reality of it and also just emotionally.
Yeah, that last, like specifically that part in the bathroom, that's where like what Dwayne say, it's like, I know what that feels like. To do that is just, it's not fun. And they did it, and it's like, you don't have to do that again, And it's like, are you sure? It's like, just gotta have faith that it's on the film, it's there. And that's, I think, part of it too, is just like accepting that, because like, I don't want somebody to have to do that again,
Thank you. By the way, because he experienced something like that, because you experienced something like that, there's that radical empathy.
Yeah.
That you go, I experienced this. You guys just went through it.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah.
Great.
We'll take our final question from Ben from Yahoo Sports.
Thanks, guys. My question, I was particularly struck by how closely this hewed to the documentary, and not like individual scenes, lines of dialogue, and even camera angles at times. And I talked to John Hyams, the director of that documentary, and he said, first of all, he said that the first he heard of it was from Dwayne's agent, who reached out to him about it, and that it was when he heard, Benny, that you were going to be involved and that was going to be an A24 film, and he went, well, this might actually be good. And I'm curious, for one thing, I'm curious from Dwayne's perspective, is this kind of what you expected to do, was to really follow pretty closely the time period of Mark's life that's covered in the documentary, the arc that the documentary covers? And from Benny, I'm curious about that decision to like very lovingly recreate some of the exact specifics from the documentary. I don't know if I've ever seen a movie that felt like a dramatic reenactment of a documentary with like that manages to add some nuance. So I'm curious about the decision to do it that way.
There was like a deep love and respect I had for it, you know, and I wanted the movie to be in direct conversation, you know, like part of it was like I was saying, I think I said a little bit earlier that like I wish I was there, you know, to be able to witness this. And so like and there's certain things and certain elements that I could kind of like, okay, maybe we can explore this side and get behind doors that maybe weren't there before, you know. But I do really like, I think that there was a concept there to be like, what can we learn from this experience? You know, how can we make it deeper? How can we use music? How can I use different camera angles, different camera styles, all these things to kind of just get to other places and talk with it, you know? And I think that really was like, I'm glad that came across, you know, because there was a lot of love and respect in that process. And I think that there was a shirt that I had, and that my wife got me, it was a early UFC shirt, just said as real as it gets on the back. And I thought, okay, that's my motto here for everything. I want this to be as real as possible. And here was this document that existed of that time. Like, oh, that's a really unique situation here that we can take this and really just try and like almost make it like a virtual reality emotionally, you know, to really get inside and live in that vibe, you know? So
I think Benny too, as a filmmaker, he very early on, as you can see now that you've seen the film, had a very singular focus on the kind of movie that he wanted to make and how he did want to, in many ways, write a love letter to the original document that was there. But where can we expand it a little bit and where can we evolve it? And so for me, when you ask the question about, is it how I always saw it? The truth is, I really just saw him. And I met Mark in the late 90s when my WWF at that time career as Rocky Maivia, around 97, really wasn't panning out. Mark was already on his way, ascending. There was a lot of almost like cross fibers in pro wrestling at that time. There were MMA guys doing pro wrestling. We had MMA guys like Dan Severn, Mark Kerr, Ken Shamrock, right? Yeah, a lot of those guys, Don Fry, a lot of those guys would try pro wrestling, and a few pro wrestling guys would try, especially the Japanese pro wrestlers would try MMA. So there was like this cross connection we had. I had met Mark before, but in the late 90s, and I know you guys remember this, there's that time in the late 90s, early 2000s where there was a rash of deaths that were happening from addiction to pills and to drugs, and this wild combo of many things in the world of pro wrestling and in MMA. Yeah. He's lost a lot of friends. I've lost a lot of friends, some same friends as well, to addiction. But these are all fighters and pro wrestlers. So when I went into this process and I came to Benny with this idea that, hey, I think there's something here. I just saw Uncut Gems. You knocked my socks off with that film. And I think there's something about your DNA, Benny, that you'll respond to. He did. We bonded. But my thought early was just this man. And Benny, your vision, you'll shoot the film how you want to. And I feel like it's going to be special. And then the guy goes to the Venice Film Festival and gets like the Silver Lion for Best Director last week. Yeah. But it was really just about Mark. And I just wanted to write my own love letter to the men who are my friends that I lost and to his as well. And by the way, he could have been, by the grace of God and by the grace of what he has behind his ribcage, he's here.
And part of just to finish up the answer here. So, watching the documentary and then watching the film, he explores darker corners of humanity and in places where the filmmakers of the documentary put the cameras down, or weren't present to it. And so it's a whole new narrative in a lot of areas where, he literally looks in corners and crevices and uncovers these little darker spots that weren't highlighted in it. And it's just brilliant because it takes, this human condition with all its complexities and it explores it in a way where you're like, wow, and here's what's crazy. It's like, they're my lines, right? So, I spoke them, right? And it was my line. It's like one of those things where it's like, what he was able to do just sat me back in my seat. Just the level of just exploration and what Emily brought out and what DJ brought out and how it was filmed and created in just layers deeper than the documentary ever could go, And so just looking at it and watching it first time, I bawled. I just had this just emotional reaction to it that I didn't expect because it highlighted areas where I was just like, wow.
It's that, and if I may, it's one of the greatest compliments I think that Benny and I and Emily were actually to receive about the film. I think from Mark to watch this film back and go, holy mackerel, now I see my part in that, and now I have greater empathy for my ex-wife, and the shit she put up with, and the shit that I put her through, but at the same time, he's trying to just find his way, and what a blessing, and really the most gratifying thing you could hear to the man who created this entire film, and Benny. So,
brilliant.
Thank you guys for sharing that, and thank you all for joining us today for this Sports Media Roundtable for the Smashing Machine in theaters October 3rd. Everybody have a great day.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.